Hi, everyone. Welcome to our first pilot episode for Rare Earth Exchanges. I am your co-host, Dustin, and we have Daniel.
Hello, everybody.
So today we want to focus on, we're going to talk about what are rare earths, how do they impact the world around us, and what is ahead for rare earth exchanges. So Daniel, kick us
Yeah,
off here.
yes. Welcome, everybody. We're really excited to start this show. We've launched the website rareearthexchanges.com, www.rareearthexchanges.com. In the first 3 months, we've seen thousands of people. We haven't even marketed the platform, so we're really excited about this news platform. We're planning other information analysis and now this podcast, which we're really excited about. It's a very profound topic. Very few people understand what's going on with what seems to be a pretty mundane, kind of primordial type of topic. Earth, minerals. It seems like that's just sort of a basic commodity that sort of has a market and has its efficiencies and business gets done. Well, it turns out actually 17 elements on the table of elements plus the periodic table plus critical minerals, many different critical minerals, are have essentially been monopolized by a consortium of state-owned companies in China, and we'll get more into that. But there are profound national security issues associated with this dynamic, both here in the United States as well as every other country in the West, frankly. And so that was initially learning more about that inspired us to start the website, the news, to try to start to disseminate information about what was going on. These 17 rare earth elements plus the other critical minerals that actually are plenty of different types are fundamental inputs for all sorts of high tech products. They're really they're called the vitamins for the decarbonization economy. So where we move to electric vehicles, wind power, solar, electronics, defense systems. These elements, minerals are critical. Okay, and they have been over the past couple decades essentially commandeered by China. So, as we'll get into in a little bit here, the Chinese government has essentially created a monopoly over these elements. You can think of it as sort of the oil for, the next generation of high tech products. So if we look at, unpacking all of this and how fundamental building blocks that we need for products, in the United States, Europe, Canada, elsewhere, are controlled by China. And so that creates geopolitical tension. And in fact, lately, the recent news of incoming President Trump's talk of Greenland, in part it has to do with rare earth elements, as we're talking about, as they have a significant deposit in Greenland. So essentially, I'm going to go through just a brief overview of the history of how China consolidated this position with these minerals and elements. Talk about how unequal the playing field really is and what the implications are, and talk about the race to have a more resilient supply chain, which is going on across different countries right now. And then I'll get into some of the real stakes involved, potential trade wars, consequences of trade wars, and then we'll wrap up. Briefly, China, a lot of steel, the mining for steel and the production of steel really was outsourced to Asia many, many years ago, decades ago. The United States outsourced a lot of this, as did Europe and other countries. And the rare earth element mineral business comes out of that experience mining for steel and other metals and the production of steel. At some point, we've transcribed a number of Chinese documents. Probably a couple decades ago, they started to see, hey, a lot of the high tech products now and in the future need these inputs. And so they started doing the mining or outsourcing that mining, which actually has a lot of ecological problems. I mean, there's a lot of environmental issues with several of those mines. But they started essentially controlling those mines, as well as importantly, the processing of the material, so the refining, the separation from the rock and the other mineral, the refining, and then the value-added production into products like magnets that are used for other high-tech products. China controls probably 90% of what they call the downstream processing and production around rare earth minerals and elements. The mining itself, they used to control a majority of that. Now maybe it's 50, 60%. That's been more diversified now. But the key here is the vast majority of the processing of this base commodity product is done in China. And consequently, what's happened is there's no real marketplace. It's not a transparent market. It's controlled by China. At one point, there were about probably 50 firms that were involved extensively with rare earth element mining production, processing production. A handful of years ago, the Chinese government got involved and consolidated them into just a few conglomerates. And these conglomerates, like China Rare Earth and Baogang Group, and there's a couple others. These companies are essentially state-owned monopolies. So they have different specialties, these different conglomerates, but they all are owned by the state, the government. Consequently, the Chinese state sets the pricing ultimately, and sets the policy ultimately. So, in the past, if operations in other countries, say United States, start to come online, if the prices go down past a certain point, because it's a free market operation on this side of the Pacific, they won't be able to compete. So the Chinese have used that power to control this market. Now, they set the prices. It's not transparent. There's a couple of websites that are used as benchmarks for pricing, like Asian Metal, as well as Shanghai Metals Market, and those websites are all based in China. And what they do is they call buyers and sellers, and they get basic approximations for pricing, which are used as sort of benchmarks, for lack of a better word. So if you think about it, downstream, so you got the rare earth elements and critical minerals. Then you have, which is increasingly being mined all over the place. They're not that rare; they're available, but having more supplies can be a good thing, more access. So that's again one reason why incoming President Donald Trump has announced interest in acquiring Greenland, or at least potentially acquiring rights to access the country. So, but that would be to access supply. But then the next problem is processing, refining, processing these materials, and then producing the magnets and transistors and other products. And so, in this way, we're like in the United States, companies are highly dependent on China. So whether it's electric vehicle producers like Tesla, or defense manufacturers who actually have a Department of Defense rule that they have to buy non-Chinese magnets by 2027, so in just a couple of years. They have very limited options in terms of where they go to have their materials processed for the airplanes, high-tech missile systems, optical equipment for night vision, all sorts of different high-tech products that these elements are used for. So a big challenge has been no one, what we've learned, Dustin and I, navigating this business, and I'll say that I'm not a geologist, nor am I in this field. However, I've been a sort of a fanatic mineral collector since I was a kid. I've always been fascinated with mineralogy, geology, so I kind of jumped at the opportunity to do this with Dustin and learn and hopefully add some value. Now, the Chinese.
Yeah, yeah. So Daniel, let me just
Go
jump in
ahead.
here really
Yeah,
quick
please.
too, and just say that I jumped into it because I'm fascinated with technology, right? Uh, the technology industry is going to be impacted pretty severely with this, and I also love cars and fascinated with EVs out there, and so this industry with everything that Daniel's talking about with the impact of China and trade and pricing and things like that is a big deal downstream for all of us. And what's crazy is that nobody realizes it. Nobody realizes that the source of all this, of expensive EVs and why phones cost $1,000, right, is because it all starts with rare earths and acquiring those needed materials. So yeah, we're new to this and discovering it, but we're discovering that it's a big deal. It's a really big deal.
Thanks, Justin. Absolutely, um, it's historical what we're going to have to do to change the dynamics out there right now. So, a major assumption we've been told by experts out there that 90% of the news that we read about rare earth elements is incorrect. It's either misinformation or it's obfuscating something or what have you. So, what we've tried to do in you know aggregating or doing even original journalism is to inject is the honesty that we want to get out there as much as we can, as much as we can know, into what we're tracking on rareearthexchanges.com. Now, the today the U.S. is way, way behind, and free market solutions of maybe the government giving some grants out, universities doing some research to try to disrupt the stranglehold that the Chinese have over this sector right now is going to be uphill battle because in China again there's just a few conglomerates that control all of this, and those conglomerates are owned by the state. They're owned by the government. And China's economy is number 2 in the world now. They've done very well, and they've got endless amounts of capital to keep propping this up. I think it's important to explain their 2049 plan that we've translated and studied, and that is the first step is to consolidate control around rare earths, which they've done. Step 2, which we're in now, is to start gaining control over certain sectors or industries based on those products. So the value add, like magnets, for example, okay? But also for high-tech goods like electric vehicles. Like BYD is now going to surpass Tesla as the most valuable or biggest electric vehicle company soon. So that's the second phase of the Chinese approach, is to generate massive amounts of revenues, capital from that phase. And then the third phase is to control digital currency. So it's a very serious group. They're playing a long game. Short-term solutions, free market solutions probably aren't going to be enough. We're going to need major government intervention. Dustin and I are pretty conservative folks. We don't just promote, huge spending for nothing. But in this case, we are going to need another Operation Warp Speed to support a vertically integrated sector here in North America, perhaps with allies like Australia, companies in maybe in South America, in Europe. So there's a race right now. If you look at countries across the West, whether that's Europe, North America, uh, in other places, Japan even, there is a recognition among the elites, in government that we need to get what we call resilience in the supply chain, meaning we need options other than China. And that's because starting in 2010, China started to flex its muscle with its rare earth monopoly with Japan. There was a dispute, and China started to, convey to Japan, hey, you're going to have to pay more now, to simplify things. And that's happened one more time with the United States. And recently, they just banned three elements from coming over here. So, to give you some perspective, if we went into a trade war and China decided to shut us down, off all of the rare earth processing and goods like magnets, we would be in trouble. Probably within 90 days, we would have a real problem. We wouldn't be able to produce iPhones. We wouldn't be able to make electric cars. We wouldn't be able to. Our defense contractors would start to run into production problems, and that's a national security issue. That's a big deal. Okay, so you know what we decided to do with rare earth exchanges is first we're going to start understanding this complex milieu of of sources, of processes, of vendors, the geopolitical dynamics around that. We're tracking all of that in rare earth exchanges, and then we're going to chronicle the move of the supply chains from Chinese control to, for example, American control, which we believe is going to happen. Okay, so that's a key mission that we have at Rare Earth Exchanges to chronicle this unfolding situation in real time. Dustin, any comments on that?
It's a big task, tall order, right? As you point out, a lot of this is pretty secretive or not even accurate with what you can see online. And for me, even discovering all of this, I mean, my question was like, why don't we know more about this? Right? Why isn't anyone talking about this? But I think they are. They're just using different words, you know. Um, we've got Tesla CEO Elon Musk, when he was asked at his recent uh, financial meeting of when can we expect the $30,000 Tesla, and he basically replied and said, "That's a pipe dream, never going to happen." Right? And why? Why can't he deliver a $30,000 Tesla anymore? It's because he can't afford the battery. He probably can't even buy the battery for the car for $30,000. And so rather than saying that and calling out the true reason, he's just saying, "Oh, sorry, no longer in the plans," you know? And so I think if we can start reading between the lines in the industries that we're interested in, whether it's technology, cars, defense, things like that, I think we're going to start seeing more and more of why exactly uh, these industries, these companies are having issues with pricing and delivering on promises. So
I,
that's why we're here. I think it's a big deal, worth highlighting, and yeah, incoming presidency is going to change a lot of things too.
yeah, I think so. I think we're in for. I'm putting my seatbelt on, Dustin. I don't know about you, but I think we're in for some changes. I think it's important. We do need change. I think that this particular problem, Dustin, you and I have learned, has just been ignored. I mean, and if you look at it from one perspective, it's understandable why it was ignored. It's not a huge market by itself. Just the rare earth commodities, might be a $5-6 billion industry, and it's a very messy, environmentally challenged industry. So this is something that just producers outsourced. Okay,
Hmm.
they outsourced it. There's global trade. There was the age of globalism over the past decades, post World War II through to recently. But something changed, with the last Trump presidency, with China's current leader, with England and Brexit. We started to see sort of globalism as it was defined. With COVID, especially, there was a lot of concern about, the World Health Organization, their rules over superseding American rules, for example, or laws. So I think that we're stepping back from globalism a little bit. Of course, you need global trade. I mean, nobody's saying that you don't need that, but we're stepping back from some of the models that were set up post World War II. I think Trump's sort of part of that process where we're looking at the national interest again, and we're seeing what do we really need to grow and thrive as a people today, right?
Hmm.
And we need it. Our infrastructure, we need investment, we need education. We have problems with substances. We have a lot of problems, and this is one of them. But this is a big, big problem that nobody knows about. So we're really excited about this show. It seems like sort of a dry, boring topic, but believe me, it's full of intrigue, and we're going to get people really, really interested in this topic. Dustin, I
Yep.
think do you want to maybe just talk a little bit about the website, what we have there today?
Yep. Absolutely. Um, yep. So at rareearthexchanges.com, we are talking a lot about rare earths, the supply chain, and as Daniel said, trying to keep you up to date with what's happening so that you can see in real time what's going on.
That's right.
So just here's our website. If you come right on the homepage, you can see the latest news that's coming out. We're publishing multiple times a day, content that you might find interesting. We've got uh, a LinkedIn community that's growing. We've got a newsletter, and we've got a blog that has some just general information about the industry and what's going on. Daniel talked about mining and the ecological issues that are going on. A lot things that it's wasteful. It's not healthy to the environment. So we're talking about those generally. Just so if you're interested in learning, we've got a lot of blog content for you there. So come join the community, come join the conversation. Yeah, we want to hear from you guys.
Thank you so much, Dustin. Yeah, for sure. We're really excited about this. We're going to put at least an episode right once a week, at least, Dustin.
Yep, yep. We're going to aim for publishing a new show once a week, talking about different things, talking about the latest news that's going on, things that we found interesting. Um, and yeah,
Yeah, we're exploring the battle for the supply chains and why it's not just a global issue, it's personal. It's a very personal issue. It's going to affect us all. What China's done is sort of brilliant in a way. They've cornered a market and they're not going to let it go easily. So more and more people are going to have to be aware of this issue. Rare earth exchanges can help you become more aware. And then we're going to have to pressure our elected officials, our corporate executives, and anyone else that has influence to figure out ways to become more self-sufficient.
yep, exactly. So great. Well, on that note, we'll catch you guys at our next episode.
Thank you very much.